Hello and welcome to the Record Players podcast. My name's Haddy, and as always, I'm joined by Jack and Dennis. So, on today's episode, we're reviewing the latest album from progressive metal band Dream Theater. The album's called A View from the Top of the World. Let's get into it.
Go.
All right. So, before we jump into it, I just wanted to remind everyone hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy our review. If you've got a different opinion, leave a comment, let us know what you think of the album. But yeah, I'll just open the floor. So obviously, Dream Theater, this is like their 200th album. I didn't even count, but they've released a lot. Have you guys been into Dream Theater as of late? What did you think of this?
I think I've kind of missed their middle era. The first few albums I'm very familiar with. Yeah, and then
me too.
Their recent stuff, I've got back into them from an album or two ago. But yeah, I'm definitely not as well acquainted as you, Haddy, I know. And I presume I listen less than Dennis as well, from what I've heard you guys say.
Yeah, I've been keeping up with them. So their last album, Distance Over Time, I don't know where I got the news that it was coming out, but before it came out, I sort of caught up because I was the same as you. I hadn't really listened to much Dream Theater for pretty much since Black Clouds and Silver Linings. And so when Distance Over Time was coming out, I caught up with their back catalogue, basically post Portnoy. So Dramatic Turn of Events, self-titled, Astonishing, etc. So that was 2019. And for this as well, I sort of went back to their more recent stuff, but I think I'm really familiar with their older stuff.
Yeah, I think I fall somewhere in the middle. I definitely kind of listened to pretty much everything they dropped up until Portnoy left the band, and then kind of sporadically checked a thing here or there without him. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I've been feeling so much of their recent work as much as their classics, shall we say.
I would say I'd only felt this album and self-titled. Other than that,
I liked The Astonishing.
You liked The Astonishing?
Yeah, but I know that's an unpopular opinion, especially
my least favorite album that they've ever done, to be honest with you.
But yes. This album I thought was had definite hints of returning to some of their tropes. Sounds super harsh, but some of their popular techniques for songwriting from their super early work, Images level work. I'm talking.
What do you mean? Because what I heard was a lot of odd time signatures. I think one song, Answering the Call, it did this weird thing where it had one bar of 6/8 and then one bar of 7/8. They would just repeat that crazy time signatures throughout it, which progressive rock, you expect that.
Yeah. I think that's they've in recent works, which I think this is one of the key things that a lot of diehard Dream Theater fans have trouble with The Astonishing for. Their more recent work seems to hinge more on developing a mood and the kind of treating almost like colors with painting, treating the sound as creating this environment, and they're creating a work rather than having kind of songs built on moments and little sections that flow into each other, which is where you'd think more about pairing odd time signatures so that we can get out of this section into something 4/4 for a chorus or whatever.
I see what you mean. If you've just got Jordan Rudess has an idea, John Petrucci has an idea, and they need to go from one to the other, they'll use some weird time signature to bridge that. Is that what you've heard sort of in the more recent releases?
That's to me an element of the older sound coming back. But what really struck me about this was their use of choruses, particularly the sound that their choruses had on this album. It, I think, sometimes was a bit of a hindrance as well as a help. But I heard so much Images in the choruses for these tracks. They're super kind of, you'll get lots of like heavy riff, lots of pedal notes coming in, and then you'll get the really like held chords with the vocals taking priority coming in for something like a bit more uplifting for a chorus, which was like a trademark on Images.
See, for me, that was on this album. It kind of became a kind of trope or a recurring thing that I felt was a bit disappointing. I felt, as a band that should be progressive, they were painting by numbers a lot on this album in terms of what you're saying. There would be pretty much most of the tracks, at least 5 out of 7 tracks, it would be like heavy single open note verse into melodic major key chorus.
Yep.
And I just got a bit bored of it. I kind of wish they did something different. There was a few exceptions, but I kind of felt like they weren't really stretching themselves compositionally. It's all good and well, doing something wacky time signature wise or synth sound, but when we're talking about the songs themselves, the structuring, the sequencing, there was a lot that was left to be desired for me.
One thing I wanted to get your guys' opinion on, is sticking with these choruses. Sometimes one thing I found myself asking over and over again on the listens was, is this chorus bringing more to the track by being like an uplifting chorus like we're talking about? Is it bringing more to the track than it would if we had something that brought the mood down super, like not just, you could have the same thing where there's loads of space, which is what they gained by doing those major chord solos, choruses, but you could do that as a stripped back bridge or something, or like you let the bass and the drums shine for a section instead, or you have like a super vocal focused bit where the rest of the instruments are kind of stripped back and pulled away. I found myself asking, would that have served the tracks better than having these kind of repeated uplifting choruses?
I thought so too, because if they had mixed it up a bit more, then say if they had only 1 or 2 tracks that had the kind of uplifting choruses, they would have stood out. I mean, it's the whole basis of this kind of sound. You have something that's distinct and original. It doesn't repeat itself often. Then you're like, oh wow, that sounds really good. But they did kind of rest on their laurels.
Do you think that these sort of paint by numbers choruses, do you think that's because they're trying to be more radio friendly? Because a lot of the recent releases from Dream Theater have had just radio friendly tunes on there. Look at Systematic Chaos. You've got Dark Eternal Night. Very radio friendly.
I definitely got that vibe from what's it, Invisible Monster. I thought that was probably like the poppiest track on the album.
I thought that was one of the weakest. It
was the weakest for me.
Very similar sort of thing. My notes here just say most radio friendly track really.
Stuff like Invisible Monster might get some hate for this, depending how you guys. It'll be a good kind of I don't know, litmus test for how you took the album. But for me, that whole like Invisible Monster, Sleeping Giant, Transcending Time section of the album was a lot of my time taken up listening to the album, where I felt like I left in exactly the same place as I joined 3 tracks ago, and I could have gone anywhere in between, but I just kind of stayed there.
Sleeping Giant I thought was better than the other 2 you mentioned, because I thought Sleeping Giant had a more of a wackier element, something I would have heard on, like, say, Metropolis Part 2.
It's got a 9/8 rhythm, which is decent.
That was a song that I thought broke, one of the few that broke the mold in terms of what we're talking about, the structuring that was repetitive. So I disagree. I disagree with 33% of what you're saying.
Can I get an opinion? Because I thought Sleeping Giant was such a great potential of a track. I agree. Of the 3 I just mentioned, it is the strongest track in the middle of the album. I think it could be made much, much better by my favorite thing in the world, which is restructuring, and having, because the first half is such a fantastic build up. It's such a, like, there's such an ominous sense of a sleeping giant. It's literally in the name. Like, it's working so hard to give you that sense of something dreadful is here and it's like imminent, it's coming, and then we kind of slip from that into this like ragtime stuff after the solos, and like it really undercut the mood for me, and that's one section that I have a massive problem with, but it's really like affected how I feel about the rest of the track. I think if we move that ragtime to something like Transcending Time or something else that is a bit more kind of predictable in its patterns, and keep this as a proper begin with nothing, end with everything, there's a fucking giant attack, or like however they want to do it, like this track feels infinitely better to me then.
It just messed with your like ability to like suspend your belief when you got into like the theme of the track lyrically, type thing.
Okay. And I thought that was one of the like stronger parts of the album, it being not a completely concept album. I thought they actually like sold the idea of what they were singing about really, really well. I thought the lyrics like often paired really well with the tones they were choosing. I liked the kind of idea of exploring in space that fits really well with prog. And just like as a whole on the album fit really, really well. But those tracks in the middle kind of for me were a bit undermining.
I mean that was the second longest track on the album, right? So they could have easily split into two to kind of encapsulate what you're saying. They didn't necessarily have to tack them to the end, but I see what you're saying.
If they had split into two, I can see how Sleeping Giant would make a great like 5, 6, 7 minute track. And another reason why I think moving that sort of ragtime section to Transcending Time would be good is because Transcending Time sounded like to me more of a like classic prog.
It's like a Rush. I thought it was like a modern Rush song, you know.
I got Rush vibes. I got loads of Rush vibes, so I can totally see
kind of major key.
I can totally hear like making this go even more prog, sort of make it sort of go into that like Genesis type region by moving this this strange ragtime section into it.
What did you guys think about the 8-strings track? I don't know if you picked up on the one track, Awaken the Master. Petrucci broke out. Well, I think he's got a new 8-string signature Music Man that's just been released, and I knew he had it before listening to this album, and each track I was like, can I hear like a low F sharp? I'm going super nerdy with music, but I was like, can I hear that 8-string? And that was the one track where I heard it. So
I was there for.
Did you like the use on that track?
All of the heaviness in this album. I think that was like, bar a couple of moments, which we can talk about later. But I felt like the heaviness was the strongest part of this album. Which again, I'm gonna keep championing it. Is something they did fantastically on the Astonishing. It was a really fucking heavy album compared to some of the other ones they've had. Even if you don't like it, it's at least led on to this album being like having one of the stronger elements. Bless you. Being the heaviness.
I was trying to reach from a mute there.
But I was there for all the heaviness of this. I actually thought Awaken the Master did a really good job of what Sleeping Giant did as well, which was that kind of build up of ominousness, ominousity, whatever the word is for it.
Luminosity.
Yeah.
I could have done with maybe like utilizing the extra string in a more unique way, because I kind of felt like he just kind of wrote as if he was just using maybe his 7, but obviously like gone down one. But there was like halfway through there was a really cool like wah bit with like the lowness that I did like.
At about the 2-minute 30 mark, there's a really good like syncopated riff where it's like dun 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 dun. I was trying to count it out because it sounded a bit odd. I thought, this is probably a weird time signature. I was trying to count it out. I think it is 4/4. It's just syncopated. I thought that that's a nice little section. Definitely worth it.
Cool. Well, should we cap it off with what we liked and a score?
Before we do, I just had one question for you. So you said like that they're sort of painting by numbers. Did you feel that about the last track as well, the 20-minute song, A View from the Top of the World, the title track?
No,
I did, because I was just listening to, like, giving it another listen right now. The first couple of times I listened to it, I didn't know what to think about it, and just now I just thought the juice isn't really worth the squeeze for this. This is a 20-minute track. Like some of the other 20-minute, like Octavarium, like they're one of their other 20-minute tracks. Like it's kind of slow to build, but the juice is worth the squeeze. It's worth sitting there for those 20 minutes because there are some really cool like sections in there. But I don't see that with this. Like I don't see myself committing to even 20 minutes of listening to this again because I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. What did you think of it?
I mean, it was that classic kind of like long epic track that at this point they're going to put on every one of their albums, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
like the Big Daddy epic.
It is their theme to like leave on like a 20-minute epic.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it like the best of those ones they've done, but they've just because they've had so many good ones. But I liked it. I thought it was, it was probably my favorite track. I thought it did break the mold in a lot of ways. I loved the kind of use of, orchestration, and yeah, I thought it was a breath of like fresh air actually from some of the earlier tracks that I did find were a bit more generic or didn't necessarily do something new for them. So yeah, I know I had the opposite.
I think.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry, I think like because on my first listen, for me the album went like beginning tracks. I was like completely fresh listening, obviously, and I was just taken to wherever they were going. In the middle, I was a bit kind of like looking for what I was expecting to come and having that, again, I wouldn't like undermined is a harsh word, but like it wasn't meeting my expectations, not in a quality way, but just in a like literally what I'm expecting to hear. So then when I got to A View and I was like, okay, I can hear the old time signatures classically. I can hear there's a sick fucking riff. I haven't marked the timestamp, but there's a sick riff where it pauses for a cymbal hit to happen on the spare beat of the bar, and then they come back into the riff, and I was there like, this is fucking Dream Theater. Like, it wasn't like stand on the top of a mountain with a sword screaming like Valhalla or anything, but it was like, this is like what I expect to hear at a Dream Theater.
Those subtle details in the composition that you just appreciate.
And it was like you could at least tell with all the like string stuff in the middle and like them kind of bookending this track with the snares and bookending the album with the heaviness of the Alien and the heaviness of the end of this track. You can tell they've at least like spent a lot of time considering the kind of composition that they'll end up with at the end of the day, which was like, I feel some of the tracks in the middle could have dealt with more time post writing the riffs and writing the structure of the song, then going back and in that review process being like, what can we add, what can we like improve, which I felt like this song had a decent amount of.
Yeah, definitely.
So it sounds like this is going to be on both your top threes.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not telling.
Well, like I said, let's get into that. I mean, what are our favorite tracks? I'll start with you, Dennis.
I thought the opener, the title, the Alien, was such a strong opener. They just come out of the gate swinging, and I thought Mike Mangini was absolutely on point on that opening track. Around the 1 minute 10 mark, there's just like a tempo change that just shifts, and it's so good to listen. To be honest, Mike Mangini is on point like throughout.
Yeah, he sounded really good throughout the album, I think.
Yeah, so that's my top track. Second would be Awaken the Master, because just like Jack, I loved how heavy it was. I love heavy Dream Theater, back from their Awake days. I just love it. So, and Transcending Time, just because of those classic prog vibes.
Cool. What about you, Jack?
I've got to say, just before we moved, my I've got a note for Transcending Time that says, I did not feel my time was transcended as much as wasted.
Wow. Scathing.
Yeah. I was like, the only thing that salvages that track for me is that Petrucci noodles the absolute fucking nuts off that solo. But yeah, like other than that, I'm shocked to hear that made it a top 3, to be honest. I agree with the
Wow.
Alien though. Like that was a fucking perfect opener. It was so fucking like heavy, and the Alien and A View or both feature a little bit of those blast beats that Portnoy wanted to bring in. That is reportedly one of the key disagreements in the band. So I'm not saying he was right, but they're both in the top
Controversial.
3. So yeah,
It just took about 15 years.
yeah, A View as well. Obviously, we've spoken about it, like being diverse. It's got some great riffs that I like. I also like that it's got some clear riffs in it. There's too many riffs on this album that are like pedal note riffs, which I think is like maybe a bit of him starting to explore those 8 strings as well. Like I find that when bands know that they've got that expanded range, they've been using them for a while, but like if he's gone back into it because he's got a new signature coming out and he's leaning more towards that, I find pedal notes are often something that they'll use more heavily than before. This track though has like nice clear riffs where you can hear the notes that are intended to be heard without having to hear the pedal going beneath it, and the solos are just incredible, and it's got that heavy ass switch up about 3/4 of the way through. Like yeah, it's got ticks all the boxes for me. And Answering the Call, which is one we've not really spoke about, but the lead work on this album I found could be really, really fitting for the track, or it could be falling slightly into they're so good at their instruments they like lose a bit of the like it's like picking all of the notes versus picking just the correct notes.
Yeah.
But like yeah, the like super fast notes going into super sweet bends here, like it's so musically beautiful compared to some of the shreddier solos. And yeah, generally it's a heavier track. I thought the heaviness was the strength of this album. So yeah, that's my 3.
Cool. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. At some points, I kind of felt like, lead wise, I was kind of like, this is just like an exercise.
Yeah.
But it was because there were some leads that I thought were really good. So
I will say, sorry, with Answering the Call as well, that back and forth between the keys and the guitar in the solo was fucking that is what like a garage band dreams of being. Those trading off 60 like 8-bar phrases, whatever. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Cool. So my top 3, all ones that we kind of mentioned, so I'll just run them through quick. Yeah, I think probably the Alien. Like I said, I agree with you. It's a good opener. My favorite Petrucci solo was on this track. Near the end, he had a really kind of jazz fusiony lead that was the opposite of him just playing all the notes. It was so tasteful. He even reminded me of like Guthrie, who's like for those who don't know, Guthrie Govan, who's for me is probably like the goat, goat guitar player in general. But yeah, it was reminiscent of him with the tastefulness. So that was particularly like that. Sleeping Giant was another one of my favorites. I wasn't as distracted by the lyrical content, and I liked the kind of wacky second section of it instrumentally. And then the final track, the title track, just because I thought it was a big epic track that did do well, contrary to some other opinions. But let's wrap it up. So as usual,
oops, I think he's frozen.
I think he is as well. Do you want to give your score and
sure
go through your reasoning? We'll try and get him back.
Sure. So scoring this from, what was the thing again? From fire down to mind blown down to trash. Mind
down
blown
to trash,
being the highest.
Yet to have a trash. So if you want to be controversial.
Have we? I thought we did a trash.
Did we? I've not got one on my screen.
Okay.
I feel like I wanted to give one trash, but I was argued out of it or voted against.
Anyway, I really wasn't sure coming into it what to give this, but I don't think you guys are going to forgive me if I don't give this a fire, so I'm going to go with a fire.
Okay. Were you
in my heart of hearts? I don't think it is.
Yeah.
In my heart of hearts, I think it's backpat for a Dream Theater album, because of some of the reasons that you were saying. Because there is a bit, some of it does sound like paint by numbers, and the 20-minute song for me, "A View from the Top of the World," was disappointing. But maybe if I give it a few more listens, I'll come back to it. But um, coming back to this album, I think I'll come back to the top three that I said. The first couple of this album has an amazing opening. Like the first couple of tracks are amazing, so I'm definitely going to come back to this.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because I think I was leaning towards a back pat as well. And then like on my most recent listen, my top three tracks are the ones that are kind of pulling me away from that. But
Yeah,
I'm still on the edge, to be fair,
right.
of back padding it, because the like of the, how many tracks is this in full? Of the 7 tracks,
Yeah,
there's probably 4 I'd be like happy to come back to. So the first 2, the last 2. But given that it is, that's almost 50%. If it was a 10-track album and you like 5 of the tracks.
and it's more than 50% of the running time, because you've included that 20-minute track, which is like a quarter of the album.
Yeah. To be fair, it's bar Sleeping Giant, I've got all of the long tracks. Yeah, I don't know. I am a bit torn, but we get the deciding vote, Dennis, because Hattie's not here anymore.
Ah, true. Yeah. So I'm gonna stick with Backfat to give you that option. If we want to put this Dream Theater album in Backpat, as in good job, you deserve a pat on the back, but it's not quite fire.
I agree with you as well, in that for a Dream Theater album, this is not like breaking the mold. This is not stepping out and showing something new, which is what I would like for something to be fire, is like giving us that, like something, either like mastery of what you're giving us, or something new that you're bringing to the table, like the discussion.
To help you,
yeah,
go ahead. To help you, for me, something I was expecting something like Between the Bird and Me, Colors 2, like that. That was mind blowing. That was, I think we may have put it even on Mind Blown. But yeah,
we did.
That pushed the envelope, really. But I don't get that from this.
No.
What's the track that's like "Break Free from the Maze" from
Colors?
From Colors 2, yeah.
Is that not the is that the opening track?
No, it's the punk sounding track that they did with the crazy drum solo in the middle.
Yes. The name is escaping me at the moment.
I think it's Revolution and Limbo, or no, it's Fix the Error. Yeah, Fix the Error. Which has that crazy drum solo in the middle.
Yeah.
And the music video, they have all those different drummers that come in. That's mind blowing. That's pushing the envelope. That's sort of what I expect from Dream Theater, but I didn't get that from this. From this, I got a group of amazing musicians who are trying to get a Grammy or on MTV.
always with the last 2 minutes of slander for you, Dennis. I agree with you. I've backpatted it. Hattie's not here to argue. We are the ultimate power of the universe. Yeah. For a different band, I'm probably giving that a higher rating, but considering Dream Theater as knowing their potential, this does fall a little short for me, in that 50% of the tracks I think I'll listen to again. So yeah, if you agree with what we're saying, let us know down below in the comments. If you don't agree with what we're saying, let us know. We love a good debate, as you've just heard over the last half an hour. Remember to like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any of the videos coming up. We've got a whole kind of smorgasbord of different stuff that we're got in the pipeline and that we're trying to work on. So yeah, definitely don't miss out on that. And we'll see you guys next time, hopefully with a working Hattie. Peace.